everybody. Welcome to our live stream, Sea Org Day Celebration 2023. My name is Mark Fisher. I'm going to introduce our guests today, and starting with Janice Gillum-Grady. How are you doing, Janice?
I'm good. I'm reporting for duty. I got my epaulets on, my buttons, my gold buttons. I'm ready to go. I'm going to bark out some orders like rock slam that like.
Okay, great. And then our next guests we have here are Amy Scobie and Matt Pesh. How you doing, gang?
Good. I switched into my shirt with the epaulets on.
So you need to salute him, Janice.
All right, and last but certainly not least, we've got Gary Jackson Moorhead. Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Good, sir. Salute. All president accounted for.
All president accounted for. We don't have to stick security on anybody, right?
No, nobody to chase up here today. Everybody's here.
So what'd you think of my little video, gang? Come on.
I loved it, Matt. You did a great job.
Real good.
Yep, that was all tropical.
Yeah, I tried to make it festive. You know what I mean? It's, because even though it's Sea Org Day, which was, we're happy we're no longer in the Sea Org. We used to get the day off on Sea Org Day. So
it would have been funner if you had a still shot of the Star of California. Like a long shot of the Star of California with that music.
And what was
the day of competition?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But the Star of California, so that's the little clipper. That's like a little ship that's got. It's a replica
of a clipper ship. Looked like
with a swimming pool.
Docked at a Polynesian dock.
And it has little cabanas and a swimming pool there, and that's where we would, if we would have Sea Org Day, that's where we would celebrate and do. Well, water volleyball, team activities.
Dave get to exercise his new scuba gear while everybody got out of the pool. He'd jump in and just use a scuba gear. But yeah.
Oh, he did?
You didn't know about that?
He left.
Oh, yeah. No, Dave got a set of brand new scuba air bottle and flip flops and mask and everything. And everybody was happily up there swimming one Sea Org Day. And he showed up, a little man with his big with his flippers on his feet and the gear over his back, and everybody had to get out of the pool while he jumped in and swam around underwater with his, scuba gear.
Somebody should have left a turd in the pool.
Yeah.
So to look for.
It was like ridiculous.
Wasn't he the turd?
He made everybody get out of the pool while he showed up with his new toys and took over the pool while we all just stood there all wet and like, what do we do with this? What do we do now?
Were the flippers to make his feet look bigger?
Yeah. It just he definitely wasn't going to tip over with those things on. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to let the viewers know. This is a free-form discussion about our time in the Sea Org and Sea Org Day celebrations. Right? If you have a question, get in the chat. We're going to put comments up. Please write questions so it's easy to star and we don't miss it. If you want to super chat us, you can. If you want to super sticker us, you can. And there's no problem on that. And I did want to mention that if you want to subscribe to our channels, okay, this is our subscription at YouTube. You just go on that. Yes, salute Janice. Okay. And then we've also got, this is for Amy and Matt's channel, Queen Bee-SP, reporting for duty. And then we've got Gary Jackson Moorhead, and that's his channel. How people can access
salute.
No smile.
Okay, so we need to investigate him for his calm leg.
Yeah. Where's the ethics officer when you need him?
Right here.
So anyway, anybody get in the chat, people, and ask questions. And we're just here to have fun and tell stories. And we hope you like it. We hope you stay entertained. And we'll go with that. First thing I wanted to ask all of our panelist here is, how long were you in the Sea Organization? Janice?
22 years.
And you joined when you were 11?
I left.
You joined when you were 11?
I joined when I was 11. I had a choice of being kicked off the ship or sign a sealed contract so that I'd still be there when my mother returned.
Wow.
Okay. Matt and Amy?
27 years.
25 years.
Yeah, you got us. And Jackson, how long were you been at Sea Org?
My answer would be from 1979 to 1997. So was that 18 years?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was in the Sea Org for 13 years. So
and
you guys
of those 18 years, 17 of them, 16 and a half of them were spent at the base.
Yeah.
Well,
I was at
when
the int base for 20 years.
Okay. Well, when I left at 22 years, I was probably the longest person in the Sea Org there at that time.
Yeah.
Oh, you were known
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
And you were the highest trained in terms of messenger. You were called a senior messenger. And all of the people in the Commodore's Messenger org really wanted to get trained by you. And you trained me on messenger basics, running me all around the property.
And Amy, you worked for Janice too, right? Didn't you work for Janice?
Yeah, like at one point I was over her as the organizing officer, always being told that I had to get her ethics in. And then another time she was my boss at one point too.
What was my out ethics?
That you were worker oriented.
Yeah,
That's
worker oriented was the backbone of Janice, all right.
Yeah,
Right.
she was
And
worker oriented.
And then Matt and Jackson, you guys have a common reality at the Gold Base too, right?
Well, yeah, Matt was part of the original 2-member security force in maybe 3 or maybe total of 3. Maybe Mark Locke was part of it originally too. You, Kenny, and Mark, was it?
Jim Cup.
Jim Cup, that's right. Jim Cup, you and Kenny were the original, security force that managed the WQSB where the staff filled in holding the positions, and then they decided to bear down and actually create a security force.
Yep.
And that was a whole new picture. That's where I came in. But yeah, Matt and I shared the security world out there.
Right.
Back in the
And of course-
early days.
And of course, I don't know, Jackson, if you were ever in Clearwater, but I know Amy and Matt were, and Janice, you were at some point, and I was too. So we had different locations that we worked at. And of course, Janice was the only one of us that was on the Apollo, on the original ship.
Only real Sea Org member.
Yeah. And then she was also at W. She was at S. I think you were at X. Did you ever go to X, Janice?
Oh,
He was at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I was at Beta, and I visited Astra.
Yeah, there you go.
And then Janice was the person who got the Free Winds ready for its maiden voyage. She ran all the missions to get it so that the crew was shipshape and ready to go. So, and then she left after that.
Paul ran the missions. I was the mission in charge. I had all the missionaries under me on the ship. But Paul he was my mission ops.
And then I never got to go to sea. I never got to go to the Free Winds. I never got to go anywhere. I was always stuck at the Gold Base because Miscavige would leave, and he would need somebody there to be in charge. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say, tell to our viewers, on Sea Org Day, typically it would be like an event where they would promote people to different ranks and ratings. We were like a pseudo Navy, right? So you had different different ranks that you had. They didn't have to do with your actual position where you worked until later when they came up with this term called brevet ranks, which were assigned to your post. So based on your post, you got a higher rank, right? But as far as real ranks go, do any of you remember what the highest rank is that you got promoted to in the Sea Org? Janice?
Lieutenant Commander, and every rank I got was given to me by Hubbard.
Wow, Janice.
And I was promoted by Dave himself to a midshipman.
Fabulous.
That's pretty good.
Dave promoted me, yeah. I went from petty officer 3rd class to midshipman in one base briefing.
So you skipped all the rest.
Yeah, I was just being me, doing what I do, and I got promoted.
Just being awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Amy and Matt?
I was ensign. And so that ensign was my normal rank, and then my brevet rank for like a decade was commander for when I was in the Watchdog Committee. Same with Janice.
Yeah, I had the brevet rank of commander as a Watchdog Committee member.
Yep. Matt?
When I was a captain flag crew, I don't know what it was. I had the bars, a couple of stripes or something. Captain, is that what it was? I don't know.
No. So if you had two stripes,
when I was the captain,
the lieutenant.
Yeah,
You're
just
lieutenant if you're
Yeah,
Matt says,
lieutenant.
when I was captain of flag crew, I don't know what my rank was, but I had something on my shoulder when I was captain.
And the highest rank that I got promoted to was midshipman. And then I had a brevet rank when I was the corporate liaison in charge, working for Miscavige of commander stripes, like you guys did.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's what I had. But I always wanted to get midshipman because I always thought it looked cool on issues, like when people would type up a memo or they go MSM Mike Rinder. Because I
I
remember
thought
Mike
warrant
Rinder
officer was
midshipman.
badass when you
And
had
I always
that
thought,
attached to
yeah,
your name.
I always thought MSM, yeah, warrant officer was W/O. You know.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a midshipman, I was 13, 14 years old, and we were called the middies
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
because we were all young, and you're supposed to be a cadet, and then Hubbard promoted us out or to midshipmen, the four of us messengers, and a couple of other girls around the same age, and people just referred to us as the middies. And the middies did this, the middies did that. Oh, they're throwing potatoes at the Navy.
I totally heard that you guys were called the middies, and I thought that was because you wore mini skirts.
There's a D in there, not mini, middies. But it was big. That was short for midshipman.
That's funny.
Okay.
Okay, now speaking of skirts, the other question I was going to ask, is we had to wear uniforms, Sea Org uniforms.
And no, I never wore a skirt, Mark.
No, I know that, but there was a mission, that I forget. Sometime in the 80s, Rick Kamen and Steve Marlowe were sent to Taiwan to get, all the uniforms made. I forget who designed them and stuff, right? But they were basically Navy uniforms. We had summer uniforms as well as winter uniforms. And my question for you, and then security had your own uniforms too.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what was your favorite uniform part that you got, and what was your least favorite uniform part? Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, okay. So I can tell you my least favorite uniform part, which were the white shorts, because they were designed for very petite Taiwanese women. I think because that's where he got them made. And so the crotch on them were like, a quarter of the size of an American woman with a full figure. And so we would have to get shorts that were way too big and then use our belts to cinch in the waist so they looked like big diapers.
They did.
Those things certainly look goofy on the wrong body shapes, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
We'll go ladies first.
Wear it.
What was your favorite, Amy?
My favorite. Probably we had long sleeve blue Egyptian cotton dress shirts. The only thing is that they didn't last very long because they were super thin. And so you'd get holes in the elbows right away, but they looked the nicest, I thought.
Okay, Janice, your turn. Your least favorite, your favorite.
My least favorite. I support Amy on those white shorts.
Yeah, no, wasn't it? It was also part of the daily oods as to what uniform of the day was going to be for the next day, right? That's
yes,
because not everybody. There wasn't a mixture of long pants to shorts. It was everyone was going to wear shorts or going to be long pants for the day or short sleeves.
And for our viewers, oods are orders of the day. That was basically the daily newsletter that went out to all the
that was
crew.
our daily.
And my favorite uniform was, I think it was J, which is civilian clothes.
Yeah. No, it's uniform K.
K, yeah, it was K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we used to, when we moved to shore, we didn't wear uniforms anymore. We wore civilian clothes in order to fit in. And it was only when DM took over, he started insisting on uniforms.
Uniforms again, yeah.
Yeah, and
Because
and
it
I
was actually a
oh, I
directive
hated
of ours
that.
at the base not to wear uniforms to keep our security in.
Yeah.
Matt,
So-
what was because you had several uniforms, Matt, right in Clearwater as well as in security. What was your favorite and your least favorite uniforms?
Let's see. The favorite was the white mini skirt. It was really bad because it came from Taiwan, and us tall guys was real big. No, least favorite would have been the pink jacket that came for Treasury because that was our color.
I still
So I had
can't
to
believe
wear-
that's a true story, Matt, that you guys actually created uniforms to the divisional code color for the division.
Yeah, they were ordered from I guess David Miscavige came up with that idea.
We
to have
never
us
we
all
never
wear-
had that at the base, thank frickin' God. But holy schmozer, you ran around in a pink uniform?
Yeah, I mean, you had like over 100 people going around with a forest green uniform, or a light green uniform, or pink, or there was a canary yellow. That was, all these goofy colors, and then you would have, 100 people crossing the street, all with the same exact suit on, with some goofy color.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was really crazy.
But you know what? We were all lucky we didn't get the uniforms that Advanced Organization of Los Angeles had to wear when they were set up back in 69, I believe it was.
I know.
Wow,
They
with
had
these
to wear those
units?
white jumpsuits and hard hat helmets. And they looked like space cadets.
Yeah, with lanyards
Yeah.
or something too, right?
Like, whose bright idea was that?
That was
crazy.
Hubbard's bright idea. And it was funny. My mother was the commanding officer, and I have no photos of her in that uniform. She obviously wouldn't wear it. Instead, she wore a full dress Sea Org uniform to avoid having to wear the white jumpsuit.
Okay, Jackson, your turn. Least favorite and favorite.
Well, I always wore khaki. Initially, the security uniforms were gray pants and a khaki short sleeve shirt, really cheap and thin. My least favorite was my uniform shoes wearing holes in them because we used to patrol, and then I couldn't get new ones. And the going thing was we had to have a tube of shoe goo to fill in the hole. And I don't know if you guys remember, it's an actual product that you'd find in the athletic. Excuse me, a piece of ice. You'd find the athletic department, and in lieu of getting a new pair of uniform shoes, we would save our pennies up, and whenever somebody was in town, we get a tube of shoe goo, and when we go to bed, fill in the hole on the ball of your foot and be happy for the next day. So I wore khaki, but from my perspective in security, I thought it was pretty cool when everybody switched to whites because it looked cleaner and sharper. And everybody looked more, I'm just saying the way I saw it back then is the white uniforms were always good, and especially on the day of the flood when seeing Jaeger and Ingber standing there in the mud splatting all over their whites. It kind of highlighted the event at play.
And you didn't have to wear them.
Yeah, and I never had to
khakis.
wear anything other than khaki, my security uniform.
So I had two favorites. I liked the black shoes, the Bostonian shoes that we got with the uniforms because they were really comfortable, right? But my really favorite was if you were not an officer, you got these Navy pea coats. They were like wool, double-breasted coats, right? Well, but if you were an officer like I was, and I'm sure you, Janice, and you got a bridge coat, which was a long wool coat, double-breasted, that went down to your knees, and it really kept you warm because it got cold in the wintertime at Gilman Hot Springs, right? I liked it so much that years later, after leaving the Sea Org, I went to London in February on vacation. I was freezing. I went, where's my bridge coat? So the next time I went and I met with my tailor, I had a tailor at the time, I had him make me a bridge coat, and I still have it to this day, a wool, navy wool bridge coat. So that's my favorite. Okay. My least favorite was the Sea Org hat. Okay. And the reason is because I have the biggest head in the Sea Org. Okay. I'm an 8 1/4. I cannot.
Holy smokes. I never heard of that size.
Yeah. I have a watermelon for a head. Okay.
Wow.
So I literally had to have it custom made. They had to make me, because you only go like to 7 5/8 or 7.
Yeah.
I was 8 1/4 head, right? And and I'm really proud of it because I need a lot of room for that brain power. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, you can smuggle a lot of shit out. I had to figure out how to fit 2 weeks of stuff in a bag. You could just put it in your hat.
Yeah, so I hated the hat because it always felt like a constrictor plate around my head.
Oh, wow, Mark. I never knew that, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I got a big one.
That is literally the first time I ever heard having someone that hat size in my entire life. Not trying to highlight it as odd. It's just like, wow, that's definitely big.
No, it runs in my family. My brother, my dad, we all have big heads, So anyway.
I do remember Steve Marlowe. That was his signature wear, was the bridge coat. He wore that often with his shoulder boards. He was kind of known. If you look back, not many people, if anybody other than him, wore his routinely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, talking about a tailor, that reminds me of how some people used to repair their uniforms, or, if their pants were too long. Men in particular would staple the hem up, and you see little shiny around the bottom of around their shoes where they've stapled the hem, or that, you'll see bobby pins, or, white tacky. The stapled hems are my favorite.
Yeah, the staples and also when they iron their pants and they burn
shine.
the
plastic.
shine, and
they melt the plastic.
burn the diamond from the iron on their pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, I agree with Jackson. The white uniforms looked the best, but they were the hardest to maintain because you got so dirty and they didn't give you enough shirts and pants.
No.
So you're constantly were washing your shirts and pants in your sink or your shower and hanging them up to dry because you didn't have enough uniform parts. So that was always a problem. Okay, enough about uniforms. So we wanted to talk about Sea Org Day at the Gold Base and all that. Janice, you know a little bit about the history of the Sea Org Day. It wasn't always a day off, right?
No, I don't even remember it being recognized until around 1984 when it was the Olympic Games. And
in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles. And I went and watched the gymnastics at the Olympics. My sister, Paul, my dad came with us. But when Sea Org Day came around, it was like, hey, let's do some competition. And that's what I remember. The first thing of group games, playing basketball and playing volleyball and everyone hanging out at the pool. And that was 1984. But I don't remember it being celebrated earlier. And I even this morning text some of my old fellow messengers and said, hey, when do you guys ever remember celebrating Sea Org Day? Well, most of those guys left in like 82, and they're like, I don't remember it ever being celebrated. So I think 84 was probably our first big group. And we started doing competitions as the years went by and starting to, okay, this org is against this org in swimming, and, or all the orgs would represent each other in a lane in the swimming races and the basketball and that type of thing.
Well, Janice, when I joined the Sea Org in 1979, May of 79, that following August, in August 79, I was dressed up and there was a whole Sea Org ceremony at some sort of thing we had celebrating Sea Org Day. And there was an after party. Now, this was in PAC, and it wasn't elaborate as it became later on at the Ant Base. But I do remember 1979, there was official Sea Org Day and promotions happening. And I forget where the outfit was.
Oh,
it was done.
Yeah.
Remember Paul, what's his name that was hired when you guys were getting old school Sea Org members that had ship experience, and his name was Paul. His daughter eventually ended up getting an RTC, Paul McKenzie, Paul something. He was very militaristic, and in PAC, he was kind of like the known go-to guy, anything and everything. And I went with him to go pick up Sea Org uniforms and dress, the white coats. We had the stiff collars and the caps for our cadets and the gloves and the white shoes.
You know what? That reminded me. I have photographs of my sister because wasn't she the CEO of CMO PAC at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, her and Kenny Lipton and a whole bunch of them all in their dress uniforms and people with swords. I got to pull those out.
Yeah, so that was my recognition. I don't know about the later on, but then I was only in LA for a short period and went to the Ant Base, and we always celebrated Sea Org Day, and it just kept getting better and better at the Ant Base until our ultimate demise. But so I can remember as far back as 1979.
Okay, well, good.
Amy and Matt, go ahead.
I left in the end of '83. And we had already celebrated Sea Org Day, not with the Sea Org uniforms and all that, but we would have the day off. We'd go out and play football. There'd be some kind of big picnic. They'd have like some goats or something like that they would barbecue. So we did that whole routine.
You mean you left the Ant Base? You not left the Sea Org.
All right, left the Ant Base. Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
In '83.
Yeah.
Shortly
so we
after
had
the
already
Mayo
celebrated Sea Org Day as far as. having a big picnic and playing football and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because Chris Burns is the one that got a hold of the goat, slaughtered it, and buried it out back of MCI there.
That's
remember
right.
that?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember that. Sure.
Yeah, and that was really cool.
We didn't wear uniforms in those days, like you said. We were
No,
in
that
civilian
was
No.
part of the. It was we specifically were directed not to wear them. We could not wear
Right.
them,
Right.
and all that. But yeah, Matt, that's a good recall there. We had that. Yeah.
Amy, do you remember any stories about Sea Org Day, or it can be any time, doesn't have to be the start.
Oh, I remember a lot of stories about Sea Org Day. Okay, so it starts with what's called an OSB ceremony, and an OSB is the Officer Selection Board, and that's the process that you go through in order to decide who gets a promotion and who doesn't. And so people like seniors will often submit an application on, juniors that they think are deserving of promotion, which Janice was like that. She would get me your submission because you should get promoted. She was worker oriented, remember? And usually seniors say, you don't deserve it. And so there's not many people who get a promotion. But what I remember was, you have to get into full dress uniform. It's usually the blues, even though it's the summer, because the full dress uniform is like with all the fancy braid and everything like that. And it's a pain in the butt because you don't generally have all those pieces. So before the OSB, which is the Officer Selection Board ceremony, everyone is frantically trying to get pieces to complete their uniform. And it's only going to be for like an hour and a half. So they got taped things, they've got tucked things, they've got everything is just like kind of put together in order to make it through that couple of hours. And I remember one OSB event, which is the Officer Selection Board, where so people go up there by rank, like let's say, people are called up like Petty Officer Janice Grady, come to the stage, Petty Officer 3rd Class Gary Moorhead, come to the stage. And then those people come up and then it's announced what they're promoted to. And they get, it's all official. They shake hands and salute and you get your certificate and whatever other trinkets. But
Insignia.
So I remember insignia. So they hand you all that and everything like that. And then they go down, then the next higher ones, until at the end of the ceremony, you've got like the highest awards, being done. And then that's the end of the ceremony and everybody goes and plays. But one time, a Watchdog Committee member named David Miscavige, do you remember this? Danny Baram. So Danny Baram was in the Watchdog Committee. His application for promotion was rejected and he was upset about it. So he didn't clap when the people were given their promotions, which David Miscavige noticed. So Danny Baram found himself a new job because of that. He was assigned as like the deputy garbage man at the property. Busted to estates and made the deputy garbage man because he didn't clap when the officers got there. Like, he was disgruntled and Miscavige wanted to put him in his place. So he stuck him as a deputy garbage man. So we all remembered that.
What WDC sector was he over?
What was he?
I almost want to say programs, or
I think it was networks. That was like WDC networks. I think it was
Networks.
For a
one
for
of
a
the
short
less
time.
popular ones.
And it only lasted for a short period of time. It probably didn't get picked back up after he was busted off of that.
Yeah, there was no networks when I was there.
Yeah, I think that's
Jackson,
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a story about Sea Org?
Oh
Day?
yeah. Well, Amy's bringing up a lot of memories. Going back earlier in there was a time period in which there was a really serious approach and respect applied to one's ranks and ratings, even so much so that it carried on throughout the year, where they'd either have quarterly or every 3 months have a meeting where people who are assigned to the officer selection board would review submissions that either a staff member would submit for themselves, or like Janice was saying, there would be somebody who was recommending somebody be promoted. And a package, they would go over the package and review whether they qualified for it or not, and then determine yes or no. And we even would have our seating arrangements down in our mess hall where we all ate were all isolated to the PO3 section, the midshipman section, like the officer section, the petty officer section, and the swamper section. If you guys remember that was definitely established down in Massacre Canyon. Because remember the old Massacre Canyon, you come in from the breezeway, you had the notice board there on the right, the security office, and then that first open area was the officers' seating. That's where all the designated, if you were an officer rank, that's where the officers sat. So it went that way for a while, and then our events started getting more and more elaborate. And maybe one year was significantly more elaborate than the year before, but I do distinctly remember because we started including fireworks shows. It was a day-long event, and it literally started like at 9 o'clock. A pre-published schedule of events and things that are going to take place, and then eventually led to the party that was at night. And if you guys may remember, Bill Dindu doing his Beetlejuice scenarios up there, or we put on skits on stage, and the musicians would have their things, and that kind of started setting the standard for not only the Sea Org Day, but our beer and cheese parties at the end of the year too, where we'd have more fun during our actual events until Dave really got pissed and he got rid of them all. But we all looked forward to it, and starting the day off, remember doing the tug of war with the big rope, and people used to hurt their hands because they get rope burn. How many people get rope burn on their hands? Didn't think about giving anybody any set of gloves. No. And the jet skis out on the lake, and the watermelon or pie eating contest.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
that was after we left. They had jet skis on those ponds.
Yeah, when the lake was expanded. In fact, Mark Hadley was the one that set it all up. Yeah. And I had to get my guards, because my guards had to be on watch while everyone was out playing. The guards that were not on duty, that we got clearance to go out there and play around them before the crew showed up. So between 8 and 9 in the morning.
They rented jet skis?
Yeah, we brought in like 6 or 8 of them, and staff would get to race around the lake out there, which was, I think, expanded to like 7 acres. It went from 3 acres to 7 acres of actual water to jet ski around on. And, you know, that didn't save us from injuring ourselves. I remember some girl, full throttle, to ran right into the beach and got ejected off the thing, you know. I mean, everybody just continued on playing. Maybe 1 or 2 people would attend to them, but get that jet ski back in the water and patch up. I forget. God, I almost want to say.
It was only done that year because it was such a fiasco. It was a fiasco, and people got hurt. Chaos.
God, and so many people got sunburned.
Yeah, there were other times though. I remember us going to Lake Paris, and we'd rent jet skis.
Yeah.
Lake Elsinore. We did it one year at Lake Elsinore. Elsinore.
Lake Elsinore.
Yeah, where you can't catch any fish. You're more likely to catch an arm or a foot rather than a fish out of,
Jackson and Amy, do you remember one Sea Org Day, you know, it was behind MCI. I don't know if MCI was being renovated at the time, but we had the party out there, and they had a stage from the Gold musicians were playing, and then David Miscavige all of a sudden jumps up on stage with the Gold musicians, and he's acting like he's playing the keyboards, and you're playing like some old rock and roll song. I can't even remember what it was. And then every once in a while, he put his hands up on his head. It was still playing and all that. And it was basically a joke. He really wasn't playing. Right. It was a player piano. Do you all remember that? Oh, yeah.
I do remember that.
How about the May 9th event that we had the big volcano out back of MCI? And it was all scheduled and, choreographed to some sort of something during the course of the event. And everybody came out back. And the events always ran late. And with our fireworks shows, this was the first time we had fireworks and pyrotechnics in our event. And it was like a 10-foot, 12-foot tall volcano. It was made really huge. Anyways, we set this thing off at like 10 o'clock at night. And we never took into account the respect of the noise it would make for our neighbors. And boom, 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 the fireworks were going off.
The neighbors as in the cattle ranch?
Yeah, well, there was not only the stampede we created with the sheep that was on the south side of our property, but across the river, the cows stampeding, because we were at the base of that mountain, North Mountain, and the fireworks go off and they're booming, it would echo and go across the valley. 911 was lit up, and we had deputies out at the gate minutes after we started our fireworks show, and I I remember Dave going, "What the hell is this all about?" And I said, "Well, we're pissing the neighbors off. Everyone's calling 911, and they're telling us to put an end to it." So suddenly it was like, "Fucking light them all off at once to get a roar with. We aren't going to sit here and unlight another 100 fireworks." So we set them all off, and it caught the volcano on fire, caught into the cottonwood trees, and that was standard Sea Org style, man. If you're gonna fuck it up good. And,
Yeah, talking about fireworks, we had that on the ship once. Well, every year when we sailed into Madeira, we'd go there for New Year's, and they expected us, and we would put on the best fireworks display, and all the locals would stand and watch and so forth. And we'd do them out of the lifeboats. And one of the rockets fell over or something, and it set them all off, and it just went crazy, and a fire started.
Yeah.
And, oh,
yeah, it ain't nothing but a thing in the Sea Org, right?
yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I remember about the competition, we're talking about Miscavige, right? Do you remember, Jackson, when we played basketball, we had that basketball court that was built way before they did the exercise area. And it was a great basketball
temporary one down by the tamarisk trees.
Yeah, and we used to play full court every exercise time when Miscavige wasn't there. But anyway, this Sea Org Day, of course, ASI came out and they had their uniforms. Yeah, they played gold and they played all these different things. The
WDC against Exextrada and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Miscavige, of course, was on the ASI team, and he was he's like berating his ASI players. Don't you let them do that, blah, 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 right? And do you remember, I think it was Dave
He
Bloomberg,
was getting freaking schooled.
He elbowed Gary Weesey in the mouth because DM told him to go out there and hit somebody and knocked out Weesey's teeth. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, he was bleeding and everything. Weesey was pissed. Yeah, but Dave
was a spoiled sport, right?
Big
time.
Because he had a hard time playing basketball with apple boxes attached to his feet, but that's something separate. He was the shortest dude on the court, and he was getting schooled. And it was kind of like everyone was just passing the ball normally, but he was like jumping up. I remember watching it. He was, and at the time you don't think, look at that fucking idiot out there, at least throw the guy a bone. But he got actually pissed. That's when you start seeing his little rage come out of him because he was just a big fuck you to everybody, and it's like he really knocked the wind out of the sails of the fun that we were having simply because he could not keep up with everybody. Was just like walking along. It was you had Bob Azevedo, who was a college basketball player,
almost 7 feet.
He was CMO. He was on our team.
Yeah, he was like 6'6" or something. And Weesey was totally into it. A lot of guys, Jim Mortland, Steve Willett, they were ballers, man.
Do you remember Fred Hauk?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Fred Hauk. There was people like really into this whole thing, and Dave was like, "I know more about basketball than you ever knew." And he's like the left-handed oddball out. Yeah, look at me. I can bounce the ball while he bounces it out of his hands. I can't control of it, but I know my game.
Jackson, is that how DM broke his legs falling off his apple box playing basketball?
He was playing basketball with celebrities with Tom.
I know he did.
Yeah. But I remember that embarrassment. Hey, Mr. Can't be PTS. And the only one ever walking around with a full leg cast that I ever knew on the entire base. In my history of being there, no one ever broke their leg like he did.
Did he break one leg or two?
He had crutches. Just one. I want to say it was his right leg, but whatever. He was notoriously, aside from Gary Conley, I don't think there was ever a history of anybody truly broken a leg and walking around. And he walked around embarrassed. You could tell he was embarrassed about it because he kind of went into seclusion for a while until the cast came off.
And he was supposed to... He was just to wrap that one up. He was supposed to speak at the Celebrity Center grand opening event, but he broke his leg right before. So instead, Mike Rinder spoke, and in his place, and he was in a helicopter flying over. Totally a distraction because it's like making all this chopper sound when we're trying to have an event, so that he could quote unquote be there and supervise it, I guess, from the air.
Oh wow.
Janice, tell the story about Terry being thrown in the pool during one Sea Org Day.
Let me tell the whole story of all the swimming races and so forth.
That was cool.
Yeah, well, the Star of California, the swimming pool, used to be used by the crew, But then no one told Hubbard that they had built him a swimming pool up at Bonneview. So he then took claim to the Star of California as a Hubbard space, an LRH space. And so the rule is crew could not use the swimming pool anymore unless David Miscavige or someone would say, yeah, let's use it. So I know Jenny Reitman, Johnson, myself, David Bogey, and Clark Morton. We were all good swimmers. We'd all swam growing up competitive. So we got membership at the Saboba Country Club. And every morning we'd get up and we would go swim there because
I went with you, Janice.
You were with us.
Yes. My hair was bleach blonde. I was so tan because we used to go to the Saboba Club.
Yeah. So we paid our $75 membership to use the pool. And, because we couldn't use the one on base. Because this year, instead of ASI being part of the CMO team, they were going to compete against us. And they didn't tell us that they had 2 college swimmers, the Buffingtons. So anyway, we were like, we're going to, win this. And the 4 of us with you and anyone else who wanted to go, we'd go down and practice swimming every morning. And then the big day comes. Oh, they were just killing us. And then finally, I grabbed Ronnie Miscavige, and I'm like, Ronnie, you got to get in the relay with me. Because, we just weren't winning. And so we made up a race. We're going to side stroke race, holding each other. So Ronnie and we side stroked up and side stroked back, and everyone else was still scrambling, trying to figure it out. And we won. So we realized, finally, we won something after we'd been doing all this training and we're losing to the Buffingtons. Anyway, so then afterwards, DM then, because my sister had swum with the Buffingtons, she was a swimmer, and then DM gets it in his head that he just sees people messing around, throwing each other in, and he's ordering, oh, throw that person in, throw that person in.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
They went to throw me in, and I was just, you're not doing it. And they backed off. And then DM put 16 guys onto my sister because they couldn't get her in. They'd come over to her and she would push them in, or she'd bite them or scratch them. She was like full
I'm not going in. Yeah.
Yeah, she was not going in. So she ends up going up to her room, which was very close to the pool. And DM sends 16 guys up to her room to go get her. And she's in her room, and the fly screen is coming off her window because they couldn't get in the door. They open the window and climb into her room, 16 guys, and grab her and drag her out. She is kicking and screaming the whole time. They finally get her down and throw her in. And DM comes over, well, I finally got you in. And she's like, Dave, that's nothing to be proud of. It took 16 of them to get me in. But, he thought he was very proud of 16 guys having to throw her in.
Yep.
Yeah, and how he got it done.
Yeah, he got it done.
Yeah, you can't overpower me.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's lots of comments too about, Miscavige was the killjoy. If something was fun, after a while he would.
It truly was. He truly was. And we're not saying this because he's a known asshole to us. He truly would make himself known as an asshole to us because he would come in and just ruin the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Ruin the atmosphere.
How about Matt? Anything in Clearwater that Sea Org Day that you remember?
Well, 2 things. One, if you wanted to get promoted, you had to put in for it, and nobody would put in for it. It was a big problem. I mean, the captain would have us all in the auditorium, and she would be trying to get real serious, like, you guys, you need to put in for a promotion. And the whole place would be quiet. It would go solid. Nobody wanted to put in for a promotion. So they basically had to have the people that were seniors to other people write the
application.
I got my dog climbing up on me. So that was one thing to know about that. The other thing is in Clearwater, the way it was being done back in the day when I was there, is we would get off in the morning real early. Everybody would get in buses, go down to the beach. There'd be games outside on the beach, and we'd come back in about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And what would happen is you'd have a whole bunch of the staff severely sunburned because these people weren't used to being out in the sun of Florida.
Right.
And we also had the jet skis. One year we rented them, and then I think we caused like $3,000 worth of damage to the jet skis. They were smacking into each other. People got run over. Some girl had to go to the hospital. She got hit in the head by one of them. I mean, it was a zoo.
Typical.
So that was kind of typical, yeah, because these people had never used one before. They jump on it and like, whee! You know, there's no brakes. Once you're going, you're going.
No, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Speaking of sunscreen story, I once Miscavige had his birthday once at Dana Point, I think it was. No, Huntington Beach, and it was a beach. He was at ASI. This is before he, took over RTC or whatever. And so we all went down to his birthday on the beach, and we were playing beach volleyball, And I put sunscreen on every part of my body except for behind my knees and the tops of my feet. We're driving back to the Gold Base afterwards, and all of a sudden I feel it heating up back there. Anyway, to make a long story short, I got second-degree burns on the top of my feet and behind my knees, and I was off post for a week in bed. I did blistered and the whole bit. I've stayed out of the sun ever since that time.
Holy smokes!
Wow,
Crazy.
That does remind me. Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. Sea Org Day at Flag has changed quite a bit. Actually, I talked to some current Sea Org members recently from Flag, and they said that in the last few years they didn't do any celebration as far as going to the beach or any of that stuff. And then they said this year they were just going to go after dinner for a few hours in the evening, and that was going to be Sea Org Day. So it's completely changed.
Yeah, it's
and
gone.
tell them also, like before with Chicoria.
Oh, that was like New Year's.
Oh, it's New Year's. Yeah. They used to have, fun parties and stuff like that, but then it got to the point where it's just like tablecloths on the table with a candle and some like jazz music.
Yeah, we used to have the beer and cheese party, and everybody would get crazy and go wild, and a bunch of people go to the RPF the next day and all that kind of stuff. So they try to avoid that. Yeah, for out 2D, right? Which is sex when you're not married.
Right.
And so what they did was they tried to make it real calm. They would give you like ginger ale at a table with a white, tablecloth or something. And you listen to Chick Corea playing the piano. Everybody's like,
oh, God.
Yeah, Mark and Janice. Go ahead, Janice.
Mark, when you got sunburnt, were you assigned liability for getting sunburnt?
No, because I work for Miscavige.
I do remember people getting that.
Because
that would be the only reason.
On the ship, if you got sunburnt, you were assigned liability.
Liability, yeah.
And I remember a nanny getting assigned liability for bringing the children back sunburnt once. And then another woman, the top of her feet got sunburnt, but she wasn't going to let that take her down. She walked around with slices of cucumber on the top of her feet with gauze wrapped around it.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But Mark and Janice, or maybe even Amy, there was some sort of event that we held. I think I want to say maybe it was more of someone's birthday celebration up in the mountains past like Lake Arrowhead or somewhere up there.
Big Bear.
No, it wasn't Big Bear Lake.
Jackson, you're right. It was Lake Arrowhead.
Lake Arrowhead.
It's up in the mountains, not too far from where the Shelleys held.
Yeah, not too far, but it was like a unique event. I remember spending the whole day there because I had to take that. Remember the Cine ambulance? Because I was newly EMT trained and I had to be up there and that's when Tom DeVock broke his leg on the jet ski.
And we had jet skis. We never had jet skis before.
Yeah, and Tom DeVock ended up breaking his leg and we transported him to the hospital. But that was a unique party going on. I just remember sitting back in the shadows. But yeah, it was exclusively ASI down to WDC or CMOINT staff.
That must have been after I left because I don't remember Tom having a broken leg.
Janice, it was before that because I remember going to it. I remember.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah. I know it was before you guys left, Jan, but not everybody knew that it was going on even. So, because I had to keep quiet about it. I know.
Was I on the free winds?
Maybe.
No. This is like the early to mid '80s, Janice. This is before DM took over RTC. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was.
Tom DeVocht was very young. He was very young. I think he was in CMO Gold then.
Yeah, still married to Jenny at the time, though. But yeah, he was. Anyways,
no, he wasn't married to Jenny until after the maiden voyage in '88, or they married around that time because she was on mission with me.
Sure. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Anyway, I remember that, Jackson, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, let me bring up the most famous for me and Janice Sea Org Day, and that was the Sea Org Day of 1990, which never happened because of a little flood that occurred. Right, Jackson?
Yeah, boy, the day in which many souls' lives changed forever.
Yep.
That's right.
August 11, the big flood.
Yeah.
So August 12, what happens? They fire a mission into gold.
Yeah, James
You let some
Byrne and Greg
muscle-
Wilher.
Sea Org Day's
Greg Wilher
canceled.
and James
Yeah,
Byrne.
Sea Org Day was officially canceled, and it
That's
was a
right.
big to do and big flap, and literally people's lives were significantly changed that day forever.
Mine.
Yeah,
That is the
yours?
day Paul and I packed up our car
got
and
the
we
hell out.
left while I was complaining that I'm not going to get my Sea Org bonus, which should have been around $400.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you get for every year that you were in the Sea Org, you got X amount of dollars.
I think it was $50
you had been
every
a long
year,
time.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had
so Janice, at that
22
point-
years. But
Yeah.
yeah, we drove off that night. So every Sea Org Day is my celebration of freedom. And it's been 33
Yay,
years.
Janice. Yay. So today's an anniversary, very special day.
Yep, 33 years.
And I blew the same night that Paul did, but I came back 2 days later. Mike Sutter pulled me back, and then I
was
didn't
just
leave
gonna
until
say,
finally for good.
Mike Sutter brought your butt back. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's disgusting. I was going to just share one more little anecdote,
Sure.
which was I don't know if you guys were there this year because I don't remember what year it was, but it was on the Clipper ship during when people were swimming in the pool and playing around and stuff. And there was a band playing, and I was made, Janice, you are the one who did this. I just remembered.
Oh,
You made me get up on the stage and
I
sing
did.
Elvis
I did.
Presley. Oh my God. I just remember, I was like, some bitch.
Ah,
and I'm proud of it. You were great singing Elvis songs.
Amy, did you have a singing background? I mean, I would have never
No.
known that about you.
No, not at all.
She just loved Elvis and she would sing his songs. So I made her get up there
Wow.
and perform.
That's funny.
That's right. And so Jim Logan was playing drums. And so it was him behind me. And I'm like, what song do I even sing? You know, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, my senior telling me, you get up there.
Yeah, I remember that's where we set up the band over there off the bow of the ship, right? That
it
elevated
was
deck.
off the bow.
Yeah.
And I remember Greg Wilher coming up. I'm singing, I'm all shook up, and I sat down on the stage because I said my hands are shaking, my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet.
Oh my
So I
God.
sat down because they were shaking. And Greg Wilher comes up and he's like, is that supposed to be Elvis? So I thought,
man.
okay, I'm number one, I'm never listening to Janice again.
Yeah.
And number two, I'm never going to sing again.
There's a question that just popped up on me. Somebody was asking, what do you guys mean when you say the day the flood changed so many lives? That's Paige Silva. Hello, Paige Silva. Because Dave decided that there was a natural disaster, a downpour of rain that washed off the mountain down onto our property. As any rain event happens, the water's got to go somewhere. In this case, it happened to be a 100-year, what's called a 100-year flood. A volume of water falling from the sky that happens once every year, 100 years. It's just a weather fact that you should plan that. Anyways, this day happened, and it happened like within 20 minutes, and it washed a bunch of mud and debris down off the mountain into the canyons, washed across the roadway, took our fence out, and went and slithered its way underneath one of the units in which Dave was having set up, in which Tom Cruise was going to come stay at. It wasn't as bad
And
as it
also the
was.
sports fields too.
Yeah, the sports field took a lot of water. I mean, we invested a lot of improvements, but anyways, it really lit off Dave. Dave gathered us all together. I had to go around and make sure every base staff member was on it before he started it. Every building was empty and everybody on that base, and I believe it was up to 800 plus at that time, maybe closer to 900 people were all mustered down in Massacre Canyon Inn, where we ate. And Dave showed up and just ripped a new ass and held every gold staff member responsible for that act of God. and it could have been avoided if we'd only taken responsibility for it. So as a result, he ruined our lives. He put us in a lower condition. We had to meet conditions. Sea Org Day was canceled. Stipulations were added into it that if we're going to be up all night fixing it all, sweeping it up, digging up all the mud, putting everything back in order as fast as possible. But also, our meals were reduced to 15 minutes. And if you were late for a muster, which is that time of day in which we all gathered to be held accounted for, if you were late to one of those, you got a warning. The second time you were late, you were assigned to the RPF right away. There was no questions asked. And then the mission was fired in by James Burns and Greg Wilhair. And we had to, this whole program was established that we had to meet all these targets and goals and conditions before we get upgraded out of this very lower condition. And it was just a daily hell, 24/7. A lot grew from that. A lot of people's lives changed. Yep, some people went to the RPF. Janice and Paul blew. It really created a kerfuffle amongst what we knew to be an okay life at one time, and then Dave just lit off. And the funny thing is, when I mean, this isn't him just standing up at a podium and being upset, and I'm disappointed in you folks. No, you guys are motherfucking cocksuckers. I mean, the language that came out of his mouth.
He was foaming at the mouth.
Foaming at the mouth. And then when he was done with 45 minutes or an hour, how long that took, he got on his bike, went back up to his office, and guess what he did? He started playing Nintendo.
Yep.
He didn't go up there and like have a second briefing with the execs as a follow-up to that meeting. No, he was done with that, and he went right up and he started playing, what are the Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
That's actually, I was shocked when I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard it, I think, just recently from you, and I'm like, are you kidding? That everyone was just devastated, and then anyway, he has no feeling. I think he has no regard for other people as even human beings.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
It didn't surprise me because I'd already seen every week during renos, everyone's out there doing renos. He would be watching the Eagle football game.
Yeah.
And then during halftime, he'd go out for a motorbike ride to make sure everybody was working and then go back to watch the rest of the game.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, Tom DeVock told me that when he was working with Miscavige, he said every night they would go and play board games, him and Miscavige, and then drink about a half a bottle of scotch together.
Yeah, and I learned about that later.
A nightly routine.
Yeah. And I'm not talking the cheap stuff that he have special ordered straight from Ireland, right?
Yeah, McCullen's 12, I think he said.
Yeah, some high-end Irish
whiskey. He got into cigars too right before I finally left. But Tom Cruise liked to smoke cigars, and DM started collecting cigars in a humidor because I think he got it as a gift from Tom Cruise. So he'd be up there smoking cigars in the officers' lounge, which was really just his place.
Yeah, and that helped his asthma.
Yeah, that
helps his asthma. He was such a narcissist. I mean, he would come into our meetings, even at night or whatever, with his like Top Gun sunglasses and his, jacket, the collar up on his leather jacket. We're all up all night in our uniforms, have to stand at attention when he comes in. And he just like struts in after 50 hours of sleep and with his stupid sunglasses on, thinking he's just really something, man.
I remember the smell of leather from that jacket that he wore. How rich the leather smelt.
Oh, I'm sure it was from some freaking calf from Ireland.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. Wow. Anyway, Eddie, I was going to go to questions now. Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, great. We've reminisced. We'll reminisce some more, I'm sure. But I'll go ahead and go to questions.
Can you guys hear that lawnmower in the background, by the way?
No.
Okay. No. Let me know if you do, and I'll mute my mic because I got my lawn. My maintenance guys are showing up here.
No problem. We've got a super chat here from Arnie Van Halen. Thank you very much. Homunculus DM was and is a certain kind of evil psychopath. Was there any others like that? Who wants to volunteer that?
An evil psychopath?
Not on the level of Dave.
No. He set that standard, and nobody could encroach upon it, because if you emanated what he did, you would just get in trouble, and he'd reach a new level of evil psychopath.
I will say Hubbard did have an evil streak. and he did some pretty vicious stuff, but but I think Dave took it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for that question. We got another super chat here from Lynn Rucker. Thank you, Lynn. When you were in the Scientology, were there ever good days at your job or days when there was no horrible things that happened?
Yeah, when Dave went to LA or he left the base, yes. That's
The air would just lift, and you
it
could
literally
just
would.
feel it.
And then when he was coming back, it was like we knew it was coming down the bike, Ray. Yeah.
Yep,
no.
Paul would
Jackson,
go, it feels heavy. DM must be here.
Yeah. What's that,
And
Mark?
Jackson, you remember this because we would get the base prepared because he'd come up for a weekend, him and Shelly, because they were in LA all the time, and we would get everything prepared for him, the base looking immaculate,
Yeah.
everything in place. Security would call us to let us know he was coming through the gate so we could meet him with a cup of coffee and take,
Yeah.
and the idea was to make it as smooth as possible so that there would be no explosions while he was there.
Yeah.
And we succeeded quite often.
Oh yeah,
doing that.
it was the biggest ass kiss that we would do. It was this whole thing to do that we would get the highway looking nice, all this drive in, so we wouldn't see any weeds or unbloomed flowers yet or anything. And then we had a banner across the Broadway driveway. When you drive in the gate, it would say "Welcome home, sir." It was all lit with all lit up with cine lights, and even we went so far as we had his custom TW Yamaha bike made up with the Dianetics colors, special paint job, sitting inside that gate with a spotlight put on it so he could see it was our gift from the staff to him. And that became his new ride around the property, the TW 200 bike. Janice, I don't think you ever saw that, but
No.
yeah, a lot of
I've
effort.
not even heard about it.
Yeah, there was a custom bike made. I think it may have been, the green, maybe it was yellow. It looked like a baby bumblebee, too much, more black than yellow, but he had a yellow seat. Or maybe he's Jaeger, because Jaeger got one too eventually. So
Jaeger got the bumblebee one.
Yeah, okay.
I remember that because Dave drove me. I got on the back of his bike to go from Del Sol, where my office was, up to the RTC office.
Yeah.
Which isn't a long ride, but he must have gone 50 miles an hour. And if what the stretch is, it's like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I was going to die before I even got up to his office. It was terrible.
He was always full throttle.
Terrible.
And that was one of our benefit, is we could tell where Dave was because you'd hear him throttle around on his bike.
Do you remember Jackson and Matt and Amy? You probably remember this. Janice will too. You remember he used to ride around on a sky blue and white Honda Passport.
Yeah.
And that's he and Shelly, and they had like a little bag on the back, and that's how they went down to eat dinner.
That eventually became Shelly's bike, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a little Honda Passport. That's what they used.
One time she had me get on it and ride it down to Motor Pool, and there was Big Jackson riding around that little baby powder blue with the white leather. Honda Passport.
Yeah, and I had a Honda 110. We had those red.
Those were awesome.
Yeah.
The trail bikes.
Great. Yeah, the trail bikes. They were great. Anyway.
Yeah, I had a 125.
Okay.
I had a moped and I crashed it.
I had a pair of shoes.
It wasn't my moped. I don't know whose it was.
Okay, we got a super sticker from Sam Slade. Thank you so much, Sam. And we've got another, this is another super stickers. Cheryl loves 7 in Las Vegas. Hi, guys. Hi, Cheryl.
I had lunch with Cheryl just the other day.
How
Hi,
wonderful.
Cheryl.
She's a member of our channel, and she's really great and helpful and all that. Okay, we got some questions here. Moonage Daydream question. How are the IRS not seeing David Miscavige using church funds for personal use like they did with LRH? Scuba gear, cars, hair plugs, etc.
Agreed.
Oh, they see it. They just choose not to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, you were Treasury Secretary of the FSO. Did you ever have to pay for things that were Miscavige's and things like that?
No, he didn't take it from FSO. He would use his own funds from his guys.
I thought he used IAS funds.
Well,
that would go from the IAS, wouldn't come from FSO.
Yeah, I do remember hearing stories, not paying witness to it, but I used to also go with Nori to the Sumitomo Bank in Los Angeles. I used to ride with Nori to bring back briefcases full of hard cold cash. And, there was a few $100,000 that I didn't know the exact number, but Nori, I would wait in the van, Nori would go in and, he'd come out with the suitcases, and I would just make sure people weren't, well, whatever the fuck I was doing. I was thinking I was 007 escorting all this money. And, but no, a lot of that had to do with Dave. And it just was this time period of, I did that. That was around our Christmas bonus year, or, you know, randomly throughout the year, I would go down with him. But I do remember when Tom was hanging out at the base, and I was up in the ship in the bar area with Bonnie Musell, who was the steward for Tom, if you remember. But Dave and Tom walked in, and they both slammed down on the table these big, fat, round, rubber band, bulky roll of cash.
This is Tom Cruise, by the way.
Oh, what did I say?
Tom.
Oh, yeah, Tom Cruise and Dave. And I knew that they were off the base because I always had to know whether they were on or off. And that was, I didn't expect him to show up. And sure enough, he and Tom walk in. And they was like, yeah, threw it down. And I was like, holy smoke, look at that. And he goes, yeah, each of those rolls is 60 grand. We won this in Vegas. And they turned around and walked out. And I was like, I got to thinking, 60,000. I'd never seen $100 bills at that point in my life, you know? $60,000. What? And they just treated it like, yeah, we won this in Vegas.
You're saying Dave said he won it with Tom?
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, Tom said that they won it, and Dave said it was in Vegas.
Using?
I'm sorry?
I mean, whose money was Dave gambling?
I don't know,
His
Mark.
own?
I would assume.
I'm just saying, it's just strange. Yeah.
Who was? I mean, I know I became aware that he was gambling and he would go to Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're back here at the base working our asses off, having that thought go off in my head, and he's off gambling. Well, I want to do some. You know,
Well,
I want a sugar with that donut, but no.
That reminds me of a time my sister was in LA at ASI, where Dave had an office, and I was at CMO Int as the chief officer. Amy, you're in the same office with me.
Yep.
And my sister and I used to, our email, it was called Merc. We would Merc back and forth to coordinate, you know, going on Liberty together, or me taking care of her horse if she couldn't come up, you know. So it was personal stuff. And Dave comes into my office, and he sees on the screen a Merc message between Terry and I. And he's like, what? You're using all equipment to communicate with each other for personal reasons? And this is to coordinate a Liberty? Well, obviously we had missed his withhold, because he would go to ASI and say, oh, come on, let's all go to a movie. I've been working so hard up at Int. I've had no time. I've been so busy. And then they'd all go to the movies. Well, then he'd come up to Int and he's like, hey, let's go to the movies or go to dinner. You know, I've been working so hard down at ASI. So obviously he was afraid Terry and I would compare notes, that he'd just goose off in LA, and he goofs off when he comes back up to Hemet.
Yeah.
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 No, the rules didn't apply to him. Listen,
Nope.
the whole time I worked for him, he'd go to a movie or do whatever he wanted. He didn't have Liberty Days or anything like that. He just did he did it when he wanted to, or go to dinner. And he would always include an entourage. Like he'd always bring like Mark Yeager and Marty.
Guillaume.
Ray
Remember we used to go bowling on Friday nights?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go out there with the bowling. Guess what he would order? You're not supposed to bring outside food into the bowling place. Like a movie theater, you know, you're not supposed to bring inside food. People, anyways, he would openly send Carol over to In-N-Out Burger. You can't hide the aroma from In-N-Out Burger, and he would openly have In-N-Out Burger. And I just remember the staff going, that guy's brought outside food into the place. He didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He did it because he knew he could do it.
That reminds me of a time on the Freewinds when I was there on the maiden voyage mission, setting it up. We'd pulled off the mission, everything that we'd docked, and passengers were now leaving and so forth. It was over. It was like a relief. So DM and his entourage with Ray and Mark and everybody else, they're going to go ashore and have dinner. And they're like, Janice, come on, come with us. And I'm like, no, Dave, I'm staying aboard. And he's like, no, come on. And I'm thinking, he already got me in trouble years ago for going roller skating with his brother while I was on a project. I'm not going to fall into this again and go ashore and have a good time with them and then get accused that while on mission, I was off hanging out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart.
Crazy.
Yep.
Next question. Okay. We've got a question here from Jan Schwartz. Question: what was the most outrageous thing that happened on Sea Org Day? For me, it was the flood when it got canceled. I mean, that was the most outrageous. How about you guys?
I think Barry Weese's teeth is pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
there was always a guaranteed injury from the fun that we used to have. The fireworks going out of control, but I used to, we used to spend more and more money on the fireworks shows to where I used to have our volunteer firefighters come out. We used to get the permit to have the fireworks, we had to have a fire watch standby. So I got to witness the behind the scenes involvement with high end fireworks. We had the 400 to 500 foot aerials going on there, and I know Dave liked spending some money on those, so it was fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Outrageous thing.
Well, 16 guys climbing through a window to take my sister and put her in the pool.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that question. Next question, we got Apostate Alex is in the house. Hey, Apostate Alex. I had no idea Janice helped prepare the free winds. So when we used to celebrate the maiden voyage, we were actually celebrating the work Janice did?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Every year.
Yes, we
We
were.
were celebrating me pulling off the maiden voyage.
As an imp-based staff member, we were proud that we knew that was our Janice that set that up.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I came back from that mission, I was golden.
Yeah,
no
you
matter
were.
what I did or touched, I was hands off.
Yep, you were.
Okay, next question is here. Japan of Green Gables. Question: some people say Marty was Inspector General for all of RTC, and others say he was Inspector General for Ethics. Was he originally the IG for Ethics and then later got promoted above all the IGs? My answer is
That's
yes.
the way I knew it. Yep.
Yeah.
Started
He was
as
IG Ethics
ethics.
when I was there.
Yeah, he started as ethics.
Okay, thanks for that question. Next question here is from Richie Pound. Question: how about some Jenny Linson stories?
Do we really want to upset your day?
No. I have a hard out pretty soon, so.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll skip that one for now.
Well, yeah, just other than she turned into a really mean gal.
She was my mission second on the maiden voyage
Yeah.
mission. And she just did everything I said to do. And I thought I taught her how not to yell at people, and just get things done. But from the stories I hear, she turned into a rabid dog.
Yeah.
She was.
Like
Absolutely.
She
foaming
was
at
a
the mouth.
nasty
Stuff.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had to deal with him.
Yeah.
Japan of Green Gables question: can public Scientologists just go for a pleasure cruise on the free winds, or is it only for taking courses?
Pleasure cruise? Hello. This is Scientology.
Your pleasure will be sitting out on deck thinking you're on vacation, and then the Regis just won't leave you alone. There is no pleasure in that.
The only pleasure you would get is you went to the free winds, you didn't have to go via the bilges before you left.
Let me ask you this though: if family brought their kids, obviously the kids, would they have them do courses too?
I never knew about that.
No.
When I was there were no kids on the ship.
Yeah, I don't think that they would bring their kids. It's not a pleasure. It's not a pleasure cruise.
No.
Right. Any of the crew that had kids, there was a nursery in a house in Curacao that was rented from the president of the Netherlands Antilles.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, Mark Notman. Question for Matt: whatever happened to Jean Nichols, the former director of income, after she was busted from her post and sent to the RPF?
I think after her husband molested some little girl that he was driving from one of the events back to the QI, the Quality Inn, I think when he got kicked out, I think she went with him.
Was that Steve Nichols?
Yep.
Oh, I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yep.
was Gene Kissinger on the ship.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, I didn't know Steve did that.
Yep. It was bad.
Yeah, it would be.
I just remember the name Janice. I was talking about Paul McKelvin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Paul McKelvin.
All right. Next question, Molinas. Question of this day off: did you break down and laugh? I have a problem seeing Amy have a straight face. On this day off, did you break down and laugh on Sea Org Day?
I have a problem seeing Amy have a straight face.
Well, I mean, you didn't break down and laugh during the official ceremonies, but you could while we were doing, we weren't very creative on the different team things. It was like an egg in a spoon, a 3-legged race, and like different things like that, tug of war. It was just all, but we would laugh during those type of activities for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that question. Next one, and I always butcher the name, so I'm just going to skip it. You can see it up there. Question, I read a flag order, Sea Org policy, that said that a Commodore's messenger could declare a person suppressive person verbally on the spot. Does Janice remember that flag order?
It was an LRH advice to my knowledge.
You could send them to the RPF. I don't know about declaring them, but you could send them to the RPF.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember it.
Okay.
I never declared anybody. Yeah.
All right. Next question, Danielle Chamberlain. Hi, Danielle. That's Neville Chamberlain's wife, right, Janice?
Yes.
Yeah. Question, did you know about the early AO uniforms? Nev says white trousers, white turtleneck jumper, white beret, silver boots, and a white belt with a silver buckle. Is that what you were talking about, Janice?
Yeah, it was a white jumpsuit, and I forgot about the silver belt and the silver boots.
How about the white beret?
Oh my God.
Yes. Well, they had the hard hats. I remember the hard hats.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Danielle. Apostate Alex again. Wait, Matt, does that mean HCO wore goldenrod suits when you were wearing your
Yep. Sight to behold.
Did you see Laura FM and I with our goldenrod shirts the other day?
No, I didn't see it.
I
You
saw
went
it.
on there. They were orange. I went, what are you doing wearing orange? She goes, they're goldenrod.
That was funny.
Okay, next question here. We've got Sam Slade. Question, was Ray Midoff married? What was his background? Do you ever see him leaving the church? He seems rather dignified and caring compared to some of the people in DM's circle. He was married.
Yep, to Gelda.
Ray Midoff was married to Gelda. He came from the Bay Area originally, and he was a drummer. And when he got into Scientology, he ended up at Celebrity Center. And my mother sold her e-meter in order to pay for airfare to get into Flag for his auditor training. And then he eventually became the senior CS of Celebrity Center, and then senior CS Flag, and then senior CS International, and then International, the IG Tech. And do I ever see him leaving? I doubt it at this point. I mean, he's probably in his 70s, and he probably doesn't have any money, because I heard when he got an inheritance, he had to donate that to the IAS,
Yep.
as did a few other people who had inheritances. So he has no money to fall back on in his 70s, and he won't qualify for Social Security because he hasn't been paying any.
Yep.
Just as a point, people shouldn't send money to Sea Org members, like their inheritance or something like that. They should hold it for them, but don't send it to them, because even at Flag, the Regis will jump all over them and badger them until they get that money away from them.
They're already all over their Social Security that they naturally get in the mail. They are already all over that. They take that away from them.
Yeah,
it's shameful. And just to add about Ray Midoff, right? He was the auditor that went up to audit L. Ron Hubbard right before he died, because they called him up to Creston Ranch. Not Miscavige or anybody else, but Ray was set up there to basically give LRH basically his last auditing sessions before he died, right? And then he was up there, and he's the one who was supposed to put together OT 8, 9, 10, 11. And we talked to Jim Mortland last week, and Janice also talked to Ray during that time. He had no idea how to put it together, because it was just all a bunch of session notes from Hubbard in 10 filing cabinets, But the last thing I want to say about Ray is he also was Miscavige's auditor. In other words, he processed Miscavige, and Miscavige beat the crap out of him. Oh. And so how could you ever process Miscavige anymore when he's beating you up? I mean, you have no ethics presence or technical presence with Miscavige. And a lot of people ask, was Miscavige ever still get auditing? from what I heard, he doesn't even go in session anymore. And Midoff was his last auditor, and he just beat the crap out of him. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what you mean beat the crap out of him. Did he?
I'll tell you.
Physically beat
I'll
him.
tell you.
Oh,
The first person I ever saw David Miscavige beat was Ray Midoff, and he made him sit in a chair, and we're up in the RTC conference room, at attention, sit in a chair at attention, while David Miscavige beat him.
oh
was disgusting.
wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And I was up at BV when Dave assigned him and a few other church execs to hard labor, and that was Ray Midoff, who all he did in his entire SEAL career was push paper and move folders around. He never had a muscle in his body, and I had to give him an 8-pound sledgehammer to disassemble by hand a concrete-filled cinder block 8-foot-high wall that surrounded the old pool up there, just as a point to put him through hard labor, and it exhausted the living crap out of him.
Yeah, he was a gentle soul and a
Gentle
gentle
guy.
person. Very, very gentle.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Dave did that on purpose.
Well, I do remember in the early days of Dave starting to take control, of Ray taking him in for a sec check or something. And a bunch of us were out walking by, and we could hear Dave yelling at his auditor, Ray. And he was refusing to answer the question Ray kept asking. And we were like, okay, there's a missed withhold there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll go to the next question here. This is another super chat from Montana Mystery. How long did it take for DM to cool off after the flood? How long was everyone in lower conditions? I was gone, so I don't know, but I'm sure.
I don't know till he got his score up on the Nintendo game that he went up to play. I mean, did Dave to cool off? There was never a cool off period. It was just maybe he threw his attitude and narcissism into neutral for a while, but it was always residing below the surface as far as I was concerned.
And then Commodore, at least in the CMO, Commodore's Messenger org, we never got out of lower conditions. So we were still in lower conditions when I left the base many years later.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think Mark Headley told the story about Gold got out eventually, like 6 or 8 months later.
Yeah, it was like 10 months later we got out of it.
Yeah.
We got upgraded, and then we had our following Sea Org day. And literally it was up to the very next Sea Org day, like the week of or week before. Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
No, you're good.
Okay, thanks for that question in the super chat. Apostate Alex again. Would you be judged if you wanted to wear your full Sea Org uniform with bars and ribbons, etc., instead of the day dress on an average day?
Well, to give a comparison, that'd be like a fire captain wearing his dress blues or for ceremonials on a workday. You don't do that in the uniform world. So
yeah, and the only time you would wear it is if you're on mission. If you're on mission in an organization, you wear
your
your
first
full dress
day of
uniform.
arrival, yeah.
But you wouldn't want to wear it. I mean, when you're out in the desert in that heat, you don't want to go full dress.
Yeah.
And in
the
Clearwater,
white-
go ahead.
Sorry.
In Clearwater, I had people throw rocks at me and all kinds of crap if I wore that kind of uniform, walking down the sidewalk in downtown Clearwater. I had guys jump out of their cars and fight me. I had all kinds of stuff. You didn't want to wear your goofy uniform.
And that is why the crew are bust between the buildings.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Apostate Alex. Next question, Carpe Imodium. Question for Janice. Do you remember a Sea Org Dutch woman named Jo, pronounced Yolka, claimed to be a teacher on the Apollo, eventually left and started the cult school Mojave Academy? Any stories or information?
Yes, she was my tutor on the ship. She was there to marry John O'Keefe, and he was on the Avon River at the time. And when she was my tutor, I remember it's the first time I knew about contact lenses because she had dropped hers. And I had to get on the floor and try and find her contact lens. It was the days of the hard contacts. Anyway, so that's my story with her. And then John came and they got married in the A-Deck Lounge and did not live happy ever after. And then later on, many years later, she ended up at the Advanced Org in LA and married another person there. And then I don't know whatever happened to her. But she's a lovely lady. I really liked her.
Okay, great. Hey, listen, we're going to be out of here in about 6 minutes, so let's not start any more questions. So
Okay.
Amy's got a hard out. So we got a few more here. Gerald Neal, DM smoked cigars. LRH smoked cigarettes. I questioned my org about an LRH picture where he was smoking. I said, smoking is a violation of the first dynamic. Like Leah, everyone backed away from me. Yeah, he not only did DM smoke cigarettes, but back in the early days, he had chewing tobacco, Skull Bandits. He used to put them in between his cheek and gum, and he would spit into his
Pat,
thing. He had lots of bad habits.
Pat got him doing that. The two of them would do it together when we were back at W.
Yeah, and then I heard after we left, he quit smoking. Do you, Jackson or Amy? Do you remember that? And then I don't know if he's back smoking again or what.
It would fluctuate from my observation.
He would quit and then order all of us to quit, and so
Yep.
we all had to quit, and then he'd start again, and so we'd say, "Hey, I'm starting again."
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, just back and forth.
Yeah.
I never smoked, but I'll never forget coming up into Del Sol to the conference room, and the WDC meeting would be going on. The door would open, and this cloud of smoke would come out of the conference room because people smoked all the time, and it was awful.
I smoked a long time, and then when we started playing basketball, Mark, that's when I was like huffing and puffing. I'm like, I gotta stop, and I'm like, Amy, we gotta stop smoking. So Amy and I and Jana dear all agreed to help each other stop smoking.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped. I ate a lot of peanuts, but Amy, who would sneak into the bathroom?
Who didn't help me quit?
Oh, that was a good answer. Bada boom, Amy. That was who didn't help me quit.
I guess I didn't help you.
I've been quit for years now, though.
I never smoked, ever smoked. How about you,
No,
Jackson?
That's good.
Oh, I had my share or two of a pack of Camels. I mean, during the time I was riding out, I smoked 5 packs in one day for a few days.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was that under stress. There goes the lawnmower.
That's wild. Anyway, thanks for that question, Gerald. Listen, gang, this has been a lot of fun. We've reached the end of our Sea Org Day celebration, but I wanted to thank everybody for being here. And we're going to, we have a lot of old stories that we can tell. I mean, we've all known each other for years, and Jackson and Matt are hilarious, and Amy has tons of story, and so does Janice and all that. So it's really a pleasure having everybody here, and I'm sure we'll do it again sometime.
Anytime.
Yeah. But anyway, let me do a few things here real quick. Please subscribe to our channels. Like I mentioned before, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And Janice says, rock slam that like button. She likes to rock slam. Okay. So we all get likes. This is streaming on all 3 of our channels. So you got to go all 3 of our channels and you got to rock slam that like button. Okay.
That's right. Rock slam it, baby.
Anyway, if we miss some questions, go in the comment sections on these videos, and Janice and I'm sure Amy does too. We check our questions in the comments all the time. So we will answer your questions. So if you've got any more in there, please do so. And that is it. Did anybody else have anything else they want to say before we end off?
No.
Before we end this session, anything you care to say or ask before we end the session? Right hand.
Off duty, sir.
Off duty, sir.
Janice, what would you say to the Commodore when you were left? When you had to get off?
My replacement is here, sir. And then the other would come in, reporting for duty, sir.
And there you go. And Amy is going to report for duty at another. What are you going to be on, Amy? Let everybody know.
Yes. It's on Save Bob Ferris. There's a chat-a-thon. And so I'm going to be joining them for the next little bit, starting at 7, and so it's going from like 2 p.m. until midnight Eastern time.
Oh, wow.
So it's
I was already on it for a while.
Yeah. And support Liz Ferris.
Isn't it fun, these never ends that have their little channels and their little chat?
Oh, and they are so well versed. They're incredibly versed. It's like shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Jump in for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and you'll have a great time. You don't have to stay for 12 hours. But of course, then, every little bit helps, and they're raising money for a good cause. So, anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else, Janice?
Nope.
All right, we'll
Have a good
we'll say
day.
bye-bye. I'm going to play the excerpt. Stay on, everybody. I'm going to play the exit video, and we'll be off the air.